Hey, welcome to A Foreigner in the Philippines. Well, Beth has been teaching on a volunteer basis one class a week at a local school, and in trying to go over the curriculum that she's required to teach, you see, she has gone as part of a team that's gone from Pastor Timio's church. So there's a team of about 3 or 4, 5, 6 perhaps who go there and they teach a different class. Beth teaches 2 classes. She teaches grade 1 and she teaches I think grade 7. So both ends of the scale. So while we're talking about how best to do this, we touch on the fact that Jesus was one heck of a storyteller, and he was able to illustrate the lessons that he needed to get over by telling a parable. And his parables are, of course, some of the best stories ever told. So the point there is that in order to teach someone, in order to hold the interest of a class of kids, it may well be that you need to be able to tell some of these great stories, and in a way which will hold the interest of the kids. Which brings me to some of the great lessons that I learn on a daily basis, thanks to a friend of mine who I have made through the channel, who writes to me every day and sends me a quote from the Bible. Now, I read the Bible, I read the New Testament, I read I read Proverbs, I read quite a wide area of the Bible myself, which I find enlightening. Well, shouldn't it be? Well, my friend, who I'll call Jay, I'm doing that not because he won't want to be known, but because I'll leave that to him as to whether he should be. But he sends me these quotations, and they seem to come in uncanny regularity just when Beth and I need them, and they always seem to be so appropriate. Now, this one now is very appropriate, because of course everybody knows that we get our attackers who have their own beliefs, not my beliefs, but they have their own, and so sometimes it seems that the best way to respond is to attack. The best form of defense is attack. How many times have you heard that? But that's not the Christian way, and one of the most difficult lessons to learn, I feel, in the Christian way of life is to be able to turn the other cheek, and that's something which requires a great deal of what can we say, self-awareness and courage. Certainly you need to subdue your natural tendency to defend yourself by attacking. Now, here's a quote that Jay has sent me, which seemed to be very appropriate to me, and it deals with turning the other cheek, but not specifically with that phrase. So this was from Romans 12, 19, 20. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, "It is mine to avenge, I will repay, says the Lord." And 20, on the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head. So in other words, if you have got people that are attacking you, in order to not be stuck on this endless cycle of karma where you've done something negative, receive something in return as being negative, and depending on how you respond to that, then you may or may not have to learn that lesson again. That would be thinking of it in a karma sense, in that everything that is negative will return in full circle for you to face the kind of thing that you have inflicted on someone else again. So maybe not what John Lennon used to call instant karma, but something like that. So the idea of turning the other cheek is a very important one, because that is the moment that requires the greatest courage, the greatest self-awareness, the greatest willingness to face something which, on the face of it, no play on words intended, it's going to require that you accept what happens. That would be that would be another way of looking at turning the other cheek. When Christ said turn the other cheek, he wasn't speaking literally, but that was a way, like I said, the parable, that was a way of showing us how we could face a situation where we were being required to confront something which was, on the face of it, unconfrontable. So you need to be able to accept those things which are done against you in a way which will enlighten you and move you on up. So that's one of the things that Jay sent to me. Let me see if I can see the other one, which was very apt for me. Well, all of the let me see. This one also links with that quote that I've just given you, but if you look at it as being part of that, this is from Corinthians 12:9-10. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. I find this a little bit of a tough one to accept. It seems at one and the same time as it means you, and yet then it doesn't. But we'll take it that it means you, or in my case me. It says, therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I'm strong. Now this is taught in many different ways, probably taken from the Bible, which is the most quoted book in the entire world. Let me read that again. I delight, that is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. So if you're not, I look at that, and the lesson I take from that is that when you are being battered and cannot see a way out, the fact is, if you can take the blows and keep getting back up, then you will have become stronger. The thing is that this has been this has been realized and rephrased and recycled so that many people have learned it in their own way. To bring it down to grassroots level, in Sylvester Stallone's movie of Rocky, in one of the later ones where he's about to fight because of a video game which has reinvented him as a fighter, with the possibility of fighting in the present, even though he had thought that he was finished as a fighter. And he's talking to his son, who is having difficulty in facing some of the insults, the blows, the discouragement, the persecutions, because of people laughing at his father, who is going to fight again, even though most, or certainly a lot, and certainly his son, are saying he's past it. And he's giving these oppositions to his father fighting by being the victim. He's saying, you're just making life hard for me. And the father, Stallone, Rocky, says, life is a mean, nasty thing in many ways, and it will knock you down. It's not going to be nice to you always, even though you would like it to be that way. It's going to be tough. And the point that you have to learn is that no matter how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get up again that mark you as being either courageous or not. So if you get knocked down and you stay down, then you haven't learned any lessons. You need to get back up. There was a movie that I saw a long time ago, and it was about a fighter who in real life was an incredibly courageous man and incredibly tough. And he, in the movie, Jake LaMotta was the fighter, and in the movie he can't beat the man who is fighting him, but he taunts him and says, you can't knock me down. And his opponent just needs to knock him down and knock him out, and he cannot do it because LaMotta just refuses to go down. And while we are not, I feel, to go out and be as our enemy is being, we do need to be able to take the blows and keep going, to never giving up. Remember, I'll close with this, remember Churchill? Churchill was hired to give the keynote speech at a college, probably Princeton or one Harvard or one like that, one of the top. And when his turn came, he was introduced at the famous Winston Churchill, one of the most iconic figures. And he said, never, 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 never give up. And that's a pretty important thing. I heard stories tonight from a young woman who is not giving up, Jenny. Incredible courage to be able to go on and take some of the blows that she's taken and still continue. So, that's all from me. Bye for now.